On the morning of January 1st, 2019, a woman found her boyfriend unresponsive, lying in the bathtub. EMTs were called and attempted resuscitation but were unsuccessful. The two had stayed up for New Year's Eve the previous night, and according to the girlfriend, he showed no signs of illness or change in behavior prior to going to bed. No signs of injury were found. Overdose was ruled out, as the toxicology report found no presence of narcotics in his blood. However, anabolic steroids, specifically stanozolol, nandrolone, and testosterone were found, as well as a small amount of alcohol. It wasn't until the autopsy that things became clear. The male was approximately 5'8" and weighed 187 pounds. His body had significant skeletal musculature with low subcutaneous fat and no signs of injury. Internal examination revealed his organs were congested due to impaired blood flow. His heart was significantly enlarged. Tissue scarring was found in the heart at the posterior wall, indicating damage to the heart muscle. What you see here are sections of the coronary artery which supplies blood to the heart. This yellowish-white region of the artery is plaque buildup. Despite his age and physicality, he had severe atherosclerosis. An enlarged microscopic image of the artery showed it had about 75% blockage. This degree of blockage would be found in an older person who had a long-term diet high in saturated fat and processed foods for several decades. Instead, it was found in a 24-year-old bodybuilder who was abusing steroids. Both his girlfriend and colleagues confirmed he had been taking androgenic anabolic steroids for bodybuilding. His regimen consisted of intramuscular injections of stanozolol, testosterone, tamoxifen, mestrolone, and nandrolone. He had no family history of early atherosclerosis or cardiac events. The coroner officially ruled the 24-year-old had succumbed to cardiac arrest due to an enlarged heart from abuse of steroids. Cardiac issues from steroid abuse are becoming an all too familiar occurrence, especially in weightlifting and bodybuilding circles. Since 2010, there have been 25 cardiac-related deaths among professional bodybuilders, with an average age of 35 years. Compared to other professional sports, bodybuilding has the highest incidence of sudden cardiac death, followed by soccer at 17, basketball at 6, football at 4, and swimming, cycling, hockey, baseball, and MMA all at 1. Steroid abuse is common among professional and amateur bodybuilders, and consequently can result in fatal heart complications. To better understand how steroids affect the heart, you first have to know how hormones work. After all, steroids act very similar to hormones in the body. One of the roles of hormones is to allow the brain to control bodily functions. To contract your muscles, your brain uses an electrical signal that travels through nerves. When this signal reaches your skeletal muscles, they contract. The nervous system cannot control specific organ behaviors. For example, the nervous system cannot tell muscles to grow. It can only tell it to contract or relax. This is where hormones come in. Hormones can be thought of as Wi-Fi. There is no hardwire connection like the nervous system, yet the brain can still get the message across. Testosterone is a hormone that increases muscle growth among other functions. The brain signals the testes to release testosterone into the bloodstream. Testosterone travels in the blood until it binds to androgen receptors on skeletal muscle cells. Once bound to these receptors, a mechanism is initiated that causes the muscle cell to increase production of actin and myosin proteins. Actin and myosin proteins form filament structures which make up myofibrils, that form muscle fibers, which make up muscle. The more testosterone that's released, the more actin and myosin that's produced, leading to more muscle. It's because of this process that testosterone is tightly controlled, so muscle growth does not become excessive. Also, other bodily processes require protein, so not all protein production can be dedicated to muscle growth. You can get around this natural limit of testosterone by injecting certain hormones into your bloodstream that bind to androgen receptors. One class of steroids people use to do this are anabolic androgenic steroids, or AAS. These steroids specifically bind to androgen receptors on muscle cells, causing the same mechanism that testosterone initiates. By consistently taking these steroids, skeletal muscle cells are oversignaled to produce excess protein, causing more muscle growth. On the surface, it's great. You inject steroids, work out, eat more protein, and your muscles just keep growing. But unfortunately, this is too good to be true. One thing people don't realize is your heart muscle, like skeletal muscle, has androgen receptors too. As your other muscles grow in size, so does your heart. Stronger heart muscles are beneficial to a point, because your heart can pump more blood and has more endurance. But it's not long till this starts to become a problem. When the heart becomes too large, it's known as cardiomegaly. The weight of a normal heart for a man is between 280 and 350 grams, with any weight over 450 grams being diagnosed as cardiomegaly. In some cases of steroid abuse, heart mass has increased to 580 grams, a 65% increase over normal heart weight. Cardiomegaly has a negative effect on cardiac performance and can be fatal. To explain how cardiomegaly is bad, let's look at how your heart works. The heart has chambers that fill with blood. Muscles in the chamber walls contract to pump blood out of the chamber. The more active you are, the bigger and stronger the muscles become. If the muscles grow too big, such as from steroid abuse, they become inefficient, as they're too thick to fully contract. Blood begins to pool in the ventricles, known as congestive heart failure. You would never know these issues exist on the outside, but on the inside, it becomes clear. What better way to see what really happens inside the body than through an autopsy? Autopsies performed on athletes who succumbed to sudden cardiac events were reviewed by several science journals. In this section of the video, I'll review some of those findings to see what really happens inside the body. In 2020, the science journal Medicina conducted a systematic review of 27 autopsies of athletes who had sudden cardiac death. The average age of the subjects was 29 years. 94% were male and 6% were female. The subjects participated in different athletic activities, ranging from cycling, marathon running, bodybuilding, and weightlifting. But the most common activity was bodybuilding. 33% of the athletes had cardiomegaly, 30% had enlarged left ventricles, 79% had fibrotic scars on heart tissue, indicating acute heart injury, and 52% had necrotic myocardial tissue. Necrotic heart tissue is tissue that has died from lack of blood supply to the tissue itself, and is often found in someone with a prolonged heart attack. Not 29-year-old athletes. Due to cardiovascular issues, it's likely that the heart had a deficit in performance and oxygen delivery. Not surprisingly, this hypothesis is quite true. The Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Sports found that athletes taking androgenic anabolic steroids had significantly higher hemoglobin in their blood than non-users. Higher hemoglobin levels means your body is not getting enough oxygen due to an underlying issue. Hemoglobin is a protein found in your red blood cells. It's responsible for capturing oxygen when blood passes through your lungs, and then releases it into your tissue. To compensate for low oxygen, your body makes more hemoglobin to increase the amount that's captured. This is due to the fact that the heart is not pumping blood efficiently and therefore delivering less oxygen to tissue. What's interesting is high hemoglobin is often found in smokers, as their pulmonary system is less efficient at taking in oxygen. The reverse is true for a fit athlete. A physically fit athlete typically has less hemoglobin than normal, because their cardiac and pulmonary systems are incredibly efficient. It's unusual that physically active bodybuilders have elevated hemoglobin, pointing to underlying issues. What about the excessive plaque buildup as seen from the autopsy of the 24-year-old? Is it related to his abuse of steroids, or was it from genetics? Or even lifestyle? It should be no surprise that like any drug you put in your body, there's going to be side effects. Some commonly known side effects of steroids are increased acne, atrophy of the testes, lower levels of natural testosterone, and mood swings. One side effect you may not know is how your cholesterol is affected. Some studies have found that anabolic androgenic steroids increase LDL cholesterol or bad cholesterol and decrease HDL or good cholesterol. The Archives of Internal Medicine found via systematic review that androgenic steroids reduced good cholesterol by 52% and raised bad cholesterol by 36%. The increase in bad cholesterol is not fully understood, yet the decrease in good cholesterol is more clear. There is an enzyme in the body called hepatic triglyceride lipase, or HTL, which breaks down good cholesterol. By increasing the amount of testosterone in the body, the activity of the HTL enzyme is increased, thereby decreasing the amount of HDL cholesterol in the body. You may be asking yourself, if there's all this data showing how bad steroid abuse is, why don't more people know about it? There's a couple of reasons. First is sample size. On social media, it may seem like a lot of people are taking steroids, yet this is a biased perspective. In a wider shot, chronic steroid abuse is much smaller than you think. For social issues, smaller group sizes result in less attention and therefore change. In the 1960s, about 50% of adults smoked cigarettes. When the Surgeon General came out with the landmark study in 1964 linking tobacco use to cancer, many people were affected, and hence change was quick and noticeable. By contrast, the number of American adults who abuse steroids is about 2.8%, a tiny segment of the population. This tiny segment also makes for small sample sizes in research, therefore limiting the number of studies that can be published. Finally, full disclosure, this is my opinion, so take it as you will. A lot of steroid abuse is both glorified and ignored on social media, specifically by fitness influencers. In the current age of social media, getting lots of attention isn't just a rush of dopamine. Those views translate to people whom you can sell your custom-made fitness program to or attract lucrative sponsorships. I firmly believe social media and fitness influencers have caused a rise in steroid abuse, and it will continue to grow into an epidemic. Whether it's pressures of competition, obsession with achieving strength goals, or the hyperrealism of social media, people are being influenced to use steroids. After all, why not partake? It worked out for them. The fitness influencer industry shows no signs of slowing down on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If people, especially young people, are not made aware of the dangers of steroid abuse, they will find out, but through tragedy. Thank you for watching Dark Science.